Hi, my name is Timothy Lemoyne, and in this video series I'm going to teach you how to build the wren shed. This is my 5th birdhouse design. I have a full set of plans on my website. That's www.timothylemoyne.com. They're available. They're a free download. I'm just a guy that's passionate about birds and likes to build birdhouses. Look for a direct link in my description. I'll have it right there at the top so you can go get a set of these plans. Hope you enjoy. Right, this first video or this first sequence is just rough cutting, and if you've gone to my website and you've downloaded the plans, again, link down in the description. It's going to go directly to the plans. It's called the wren shed, and you need to start out with a board. It needs to be a 1x6 and it needs to be 6 feet tall. Our first 2 cuts are just going to be rough cuts. That means you need a tape measure. So find yourself one of these bad boys, and then this tool, if you're not familiar with it, is called a square. This is going to give us our straight lines so we can make accurate cuts. So as I'm looking at these plans, I'm looking at these things, and it's giving me a dimension here that's telling me to make my first cut at 29 inches, and then my next one's at 27. Also, every single piece is labeled for what you're going to end up cutting out of them, so be sure you're paying attention to that. First measurement is 29 inches, so I'm just going from the end of my board across, and make sure you are making your marks with a pencil. All right, so here I am making the mark. Be sure that you are marking precisely, and I basically just put a little tick mark there, and then I'm going to end up grabbing my square, and the way that a square works is it helps us make a perfectly straight line. If you end up having this knot, this part here, this piece, not flat against the board, you end up with a crooked line. Some people will try to just kind of put it out here and then freehand. Not the correct way to do it. Make sure that it's pushed up all the way flush on the edge of your board. Go up and line up with your tick mark like I just did here, and then you mark it. And you put an X over here. Your saw blade's going to go on this side, and that's something we'll talk about in a moment, but very important that when you bring the saw head down, that the edge of the blade comes to this line, and like the meat of the saw where it's going to make sawdust goes over to this space. So if you're looking at this printout, this particular piece here that we just measured for 29 inches, it's going to be labeled specifically. Make sure you're looking at, again, sheet 8. And as I'm looking at this, I'm marking it. I need to have my last name on it, which is Lemoyne. And this is going to be for my front, my back, and my bottom. And that'll become important soon when we're making different cuts. Okay, I'm looking at plans and measuring from the other side of my board now. I'm going for 27. And I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm measuring from this far end. This is my right as I look at it. And I'm going to grab the square, and I'm going to mark that spot. And because I measured from this side, I'm going to the other side and put my X, and this is where my saw blade's going to go. Again, make sure you label this. We're going to get our sides out of this. There's going to be 2 of them. And you're also going to get your roof brackets. And as always, put your name on this thing. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to go over to a miter saw and make these cuts. All right, so I'm over at the miter saw, and you need to line this thing up. Remember that the X location is really important. And without my finger on the trigger right now, I'm bringing this in and I'm just setting the blade on the board. And you can see with my left hand here, I am bringing this piece in, and I want the edge of the tooth just to be hitting that line. So here's another kind of view of it. It's right on the edge. And that's the location that we want when you're setting up for your cut. Back in here, this is where the X is. My kerf will be here. That's the area where your saw blade is going through the piece of wood. On this one, like I said, I'm going to hold with my left hand. Notice that my thumb is down, my fingers are on top, and I'm actually putting my hands right above the edge of the saw here. And my right hand is going to do the cutting. I like to take my body off the center line, so if the saw blade comes out, I'm not going to take it right to the tummy. I like to be off to the side of it. My feet are on the grip tape right now, which is something that you can't necessarily see. This particular saw, you need to pull it all the way out. This is the spot where I'm going to start it. Once it's started, I'll go all the way down, and then cut nice and slowly through my piece of wood. So make sure you're doing the same kind of motion when you cut. Okay, and then finally, as always, leave the saw blade down until your saw blade has come to a complete stop. Setting up for the next piece, exactly the same. You're going to notice that I'm flipping it around because I want my X to be to my right. Line this thing up exactly as previously. Keep your finger off the blade. Flip your hand upside down right above the edge. Lift up, pull out, start and cut. Okay, these two pieces right here are pieces that we're going to actually use for our birdhouse. So those need to go to a safe space. This piece, if you look at sheet 8, is saying you don't really need this. And basically what I say is if we make a mistake cutting something else, we use this. But for now, you can just give this back to me. And if you need another piece, let me know. I'll hook you up.